Mick.
I'm Tammy.
And where there's a will, there is a way. Yes. And we're excited about tonight's episode. We're actually talking to Nick Johnson, the old-fashioned way. We're going like E.T. phone home kind of way.
And he said that, that every time he tries to tell this story, something happens. And, it's like something happened. We could not get him connected through the other program. So now we're doing it the way that we normally record our podcast. And so we're believing that he's going to come through loud and clear on this.
10-4. I've known Nick for a long time, and he told me this story a few years back. And I just want to say, I know Nick well enough that, if he tells you a story like this, it's true. Because I've known the man a long time, and he's not been a feller of a reputation to lie. But we're excited about, and this is part of our series, We Ain't Scared, and we're featuring areas around our hometown where there's been paranormal activity and things that just can't be explained. And so, Nick, if you'd like to on this. What is this, the fourth time?
Yeah, the fourth.
Something like that. Well, if you count all those failed attempts before, I think we're in the 23rd time. But sure thing, Mickey. This all occurred back when I was in college. As college kids do, we used to tell the tales and we'd go looking for these things. This one night, this was the third trip I made because we would take some folks over, not see anything, come back and tell it to more friends, and they'd want to go. So we'd jump back in the car and go back over that way looking for whatever it was that was supposed to be there. Like I say, this was our third trip. There was 4 in the car. There was 2 in the front seat, 2 in the back. We go over to Oliveville. We turn there on Route 2, towards Carter City. I remember passing the church and pointing it out to one of the young guys in the back, and he just freaks out because he realized we were really there. And we go over the hill and turn around at the bottom at that little store down there, just past the bottom. And as we're coming back up, there's a really sharp curve to the left. As we're coming out of that curve, my car just completely stops pulling. The engine doesn't turn off or anything. All the little red lights on the dash and the old cars, there wasn't just a check engine light. There was one for your alternator, oil pressure, everything. All those came on. There was 4 or 5 of them came on. As I look down at them, my car isn't pulling forward. I look down at those, my headlights go out.
Wow. Which
freaks me out and brings my attention to the front of the car. Just as I look up, the headlights come back on them bright, and there's this white, translucent, lady-looking figure standing against my front bumper looking in the front window at us. Everybody in the car is screaming. The guy in the back seat, he's hitting me in the back of the head, telling me to go on, and the car won't go. It's just, I got my foot on the gas, and it's not moving. It is sitting still. This figure starts coming around like it's going to the passenger door on my car. And just as it gets to the post that goes up by the door, it vanishes while we're all watching it. As soon as it vanishes, the car takes off, and it's like nothing ever happened. The car just ran fine. All the lights went off. Transmission was working fine. Just blown us all away.
Oh, wow.
I would have peeled out of there and probably messed my pants.
Trust me, it was on my agenda.
So do you know what the actual story is? Who the lady's actually supposed to be? What's the story behind that?
I've heard so many stories through the years. I heard it was, a young lady that died on her wedding day. I heard it was somebody at prom, but the essence is, of the story I'd heard my whole life, and while we were going over there, is if you saw her on the hill, you would either have to stop and pick her up and take her to the top of the hill if there was a spot in your ar, or if there wasn't, she would watch you drive by. So we made sure all the seats were full. And
one way or another.
Been there my whole life, and that was the first time I saw anything.
Wow.
And that's really wild. And you said that every time that you try to tell this story, something something?
Yeah, several times, not every time, but a lot of the times I would tell him. I had a cousin was moving into this trailer, had been abandoned for a while, and I was telling her the story for the first time. And as we're sitting in the living room, all the kitchen cabinet doors open up one by one, going down the kitchen.
Wow.
Wow.
She didn't move in.
Yeah.
There's just been little things like that. But tonight's technology difficulties are
that's something
no surprise
else.
to me, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that's really.
There's been several people, not several, I know a couple of people that have witnessed the same, whatever it is.
So that would have been like, what, in the mid-'80s, you said?
It would have been mid to late 80s, 86, 87, somewhere in there. I was like a sophomore, junior in college.
So after it happened, did all the guys with you, did you look at each other and say, we never speak of this again?
Well, there was three of us, were like just blown away, and we were discussing it. And the fourth person, this is the funny one, he go, "Oh, I was asleep. I didn't see anything." And I was like, "What? You're telling me you slept through that?" Because, the other guy was yelling right beside you, and he was hitting me, and he's like, "No, I slept through it." Well, I don't know, it was 8 or 10 years ago. We were at a band reunion. He was in the high school band with me, and we had a band reunion with all the old crew, and he was sitting at my table, just so happens. And he looks over and goes, "How did you all do that?" And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "Make that lady disappear." I was like, "What do you?" I said, "You told us you were asleep." He goes, "Yeah, I thought you all were trying to play a trick on me." And I was like, "No, we were not playing a trick on you. That was legit. It happened to all of us."
So he actually thought that she got into the car?
Pardon me?
So he actually thought that she got into the car, or at least tried to get in?
He thought it was a trick that me and the other two people were playing on him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He thought it was a prank on him, and it was not.
Yeah, that's something else.
So where the car was, based on where the church was it near the church there on top of the hill?
No, it was more towards the bottom. If you remember the very sharp curve at the very bottom, Tammy, it's as you come out of it, like you're going hill. That's where we encountered this. Okay. Another young man that used to work for me, he had 2 episodes up by the church with it. So.
Oh, okay. So it's like in that area close by that.
Yeah, anywhere from the church to the bottom of the hills, the way I understand it. His episode, he had pulled off there at the parking area right across from the church. Uh-huh. And he was trying to get his skull, which had fallen out of the seat. He's off the seat, and he was reaching over into the passenger floorboard. He said, when he grabbed it, he said, "I felt really funny." And he goes, "I look up, and she's standing looking in the passenger window."
Oh, wow.
Against his car window. And he just floors it and takes off because he said the window's fogged up. He goes, "I couldn't see anything." He just laid into it.
And was that at nighttime, you think, or was it during the day that happened to him?
Oh, that was late in the it was late in the night. He was leaving, going to town, doing something. I don't remember, but it was after dark. And for us, I'd say it was probably 10:30, 11, 12, something like that at night. College kids, we ran around all the time. So.
Yeah. So is that the only experience that you've had like that in your life, or have you had other experiences at different locations or places?
That started it, I guess. We moved into a house when my wife and I got married, which is ironically, when I told her the story, she's also encountered the same thing on horseback. Oh. She used to ride horses over there and was going through the woods, and it came across in front of her and her horse one night.
The apparition from Bethel Hill area, is that?
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
She was telling me her horse was freaking out, and she was, trying to get it to go on, and she said she looked up and it walked across the trail in front of them. And then this young man that worked for me saw it. But when we got married, we moved into a house that, there was a lot of paranormal activity kind of stuff go on there. When we first got married, we both had kids. I was in the my son was wanting to sleep with me. You know, he was still a child, and her son was wanting to sleep with her. So she slept upstairs, and I slept downstairs with my son. And our bed kind of sat in the middle of the room. There was a walkway all the way around it, probably 3 feet to the walls. And on the walls there was whatnot shelves.
Uh-huh.
And in the middle of the night, for no reason, my son and I can figure, all the stuff on those whatnot shelves started being thrown at us in the middle of the bed. It was hitting us in the bed.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That one really, really freaked me out. Then one night when my daughter was graduating high school, for some reason I just looked up. We used to have a clothes rack at the end of the bed there. In the kitchen area, you could look out the door and see this clothes rack that was right outside our bathroom in the kitchen. And her graduation gown motioned for me to come out. It did a arm motion trying to. That was freaky. And then when we were moving out of that house, my wife, my mother-in-law, and I were loading everything up. And just as we did it, I said, well, that's the last load. And every door upstairs started opening and slamming repeatedly with nobody else in the house. They were just like, boom, 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 boom.
So the time that you guys were in the house, did you guys ever have anybody like come in and pray or do anything like that?
Not at that time.
To try to get rid of it?
Not. Our son-in-law is a pastor. We discussed it, but I don't think we ever actually did that. As he encountered some things there as well.
Oh, wow, yeah. So do you think that, like, where you were interested in this topic in college and you had the experience at Bethel Hill, do you feel like that you became more open and receptive to believing that there's something that exists?
That very well could be. I often felt because we had tricked the one young man into going that night, it's the reason we saw it too.
Okay, yeah. I've heard that too. Like a lot of places that people go, there'll be like a trickster type spirit to where it likes to mess with or play with, people's fear and people's minds while they're there. And, when you mention that, that's what I was thinking of too. Like, you tricked him into going and then it happened,
Exactly. It had never happened my whole life until that time.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And, that's what Mickey and I, we want to, bring awareness to this side of spirituality, because we run into some folks who absolutely do not believe in this. And it's like there's so many people that have stories just like yours, and you can't deny that they happen. You were there, you witnessed it, you were not under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
Correct.
And it happened, So it's
I never drank in my life.
That's one thing me and Nick have in common.
And if somebody had told me this story, I may have not even believed them, but it did happen to me. So.
Yeah. So do you feel like now that, that happened those years ago in the house that you had moved into, do you feel like that you're more sensitive to atmospheres, maybe like when you walk into a house or walk into a room, that you can kind of get a feel for any negative energy or in the house?
Heaviness.
To a degree, I feel uneasy in certain locations and situations. I certainly do.
Yeah.
I'm not for sure what I'm perceiving or what's going on, but yeah, I do feel
it's like you have a knowing on the inside, and it's just like you can't put your finger on it and you can't really explain it, but you just know that you're having that feeling.
Yes, that's true.
Well, hopefully you don't have experiences like us where you see all the red flags and you say, but I thought it was a carnival.
Okay.
I do want to get your opinion on this, though. With paranormal activity being more predominant in Hollywood and presented with a lot of computer graphics and a lot of things like that, do you subject yourself to watching those type of movies?
We avoid those like the plague, Tammy. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Audrey and I are comedy lovers, and
Yeah.
we watch a lot of comedy and those kind of things, but we try to avoid all the scary stuff.
Yeah, that's like with Mickey and I. I don't do well with that kind of stuff. And
Tell Audrey I finally exposed Tammy to Mr. Bean about a couple months ago.
yeah,
I will let her know. She's a Mr. Bean fanatic.
yeah, I had never really sat down to watch him, but he's hilarious for the time period that's presented. It's like,
Yes.
what, the late 70s, early 80s maybe, or something?
Something along like that. That sounds right. And there's a complete TV series from England that we've watched a time or two, and then he has those movies out. And what was the Johnny English, and then the Mr. Bean movies, and
Yeah.
you can't watch him with Audrey in public. She laughs so hard she'll fall out of her chair. Though, so.
I think it's his facial expressions, and a lot of it, it's like you can't walk away to go to the bathroom. You've got to be like right there watching his facial expressions.
Absolutely, and his walks and his whole body humor he does is just really good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that that answered a question that we ask a lot of people about the scary movies and stuff like that, because when you go to the movies and you watch that, it's created to get a response out of you. And
Yeah.
and a lot of that stuff is created, but I think it can open the door to the real thing.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When we were experiencing that in that house we lived in, I started watching that Ghost Hunters to see if there was anything they had, that
Yeah.
could tell me. But kind of got away from that.
Yeah. Mickey used to work overnights, on his job and stuff. And, you're flipping through Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and you're like, oh, that looks interesting. And you watch about 5 minutes of it, and you realize you're home by yourself. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch this.
Feel like it's a long walk to the bedroom.
Absolutely.
Or just sleep on the couch.
Yeah, I try not to scare myself. I want to go to bed laughing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap everything up. We really appreciate you sharing the story. One of the things too that we want to point out, because we know a lot of people that try to discredit like all things spirituality, whether it be with God or we're trying to show that, like, if one side exists, the other side has to exist. And, you can't really have one without the other, because one is the creator of all things. And
Yeah, there's good and bad spirits out there.
yeah,
That's for sure. The Bible is very clear about that.
but we appreciate you sharing your story. If you know anybody else that's got any stories, not just about Bethel Hill, but anything regional, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'll put a feeler out for some folks.
Okay.
I'm sure there's some out there.
All righty, man. Well, we're going to hop off here, and everybody, we thank you all for tuning in. Is it really tuning in if we're on a podcast? I'm still on the TV with the tuner.
Good question.